He taught us compassion, courage, and understanding. And he helped us cope with our fears and ignorance about the disease AIDS. Today, time ran out on Ryan White's very public battle with AIDS.
Today we come to you from the center of Indiana, Kokomo, Indiana. And we're here today to talk about a boy from the 80s who caught national attention for being a spokesperson for AIDS. So Ryan White was a small town boy who lived in Kokomo, Indiana with his mother Jeannie and his sister Andrea. He was born in December of 1971, and soon after birth, Ryan was diagnosed with hemophilia A, which is basically a bleeding disorder that occurs when the body doesn't produce enough clotting factor in the blood. And this can cause a person's blood to not clot properly. And that was what happened to Ryan. This can also cause them to bleed internally or externally. A lot of symptoms of hemophilia are basically, bleeding longer than normal, bruising and bleeding for no apparent reason, and so on. Well, for several years after his diagnosis, he lived a pretty normal life. For several years after his diagnosis, Ryan was treated with a blood product called Factor VIII, which is basically created from pooled plasma of non-hemophiliacs, basically from blood donors. They just separate. Then in 1984, December of 84, Ryan became pretty ill and went to the doctor, and they kind of thought it was just a common cold at first. And he went home and got worse and worse. Then they determined that he was suffering from a pneumonia. So they treated him for pneumonia, and his condition got worse and worse, and he was transferred to Riley Children's Hospital down by Indianapolis. And they thought maybe he had TB, cancer, or AIDS. And then on December 17th of 1984, they did a lung biopsy, and it was determined by Dr. Martin Kleeman that Ryan did have AIDS. And the doctors gave him 3 to 6 months to live at that point. So at this time, unknowingly, to thousands of Americans, they also contracted AIDS from that contaminated blood product, Factor VIII. At that time, back in the 80s, just, screening for products like that just weren't available, or they didn't even think to do that, I guess. Nobody really knew what AIDS was or anything about it. But eventually, once they figured this all out, they decided to start heat treating these blood products and screening them properly to avoid things like this from happening. After his diagnosis, he felt too sick to return to school, so he missed some school toward the end of his 7th grade year. And come 8th grade year, he started to feel a little better. He started to get his strength back and wanted to go back to school. And his mom, Jeannie, had asked the principal if he can come back to school. And she said, well, Jeannie, you better talk to the school board about that. And so she called the school board, and come to find out that they were not going to admit Ryan back into school because they were uneducated on how the AIDS virus could be transmitted. They thought it could be transmitted airborne, which was not the case. And during this time, unbeknownst to the White family, out of the 360 students, 117 parents and 50 teachers signed a petition urging the school to bar Ryan from coming back. And caving from that pressure, they voted to not allow Ryan to come back. And then come June 30th of 85, Jeannie submitted a formal request for Ryan to return to school, and that was denied as well. So at this point, it sparked a long appeal process to which the local media kind of picked up on the Whites' story, and the media locally, they had the Whites back. And it was around this time that an attorney by the name of Charles Vaughn called the Whites and asked Ryan if he really wanted to return to school. And Ryan said, "Yes, I do." So Mr. Vaughn took his case and they took it to court. And after a 9-month legal battle, on the 25th of November of 1985, the Indiana Department of Education ruled that the school must follow the board guidelines and allow Ryan to attend school once again. So in the spring of 1986, Ryan walked back into Western Intermediate School for the first time since his diagnosis. And right off the bat, he was ostracized. He was treated very poorly by students and staff. On his first day, 151 of the 360 students were absent because of Ryan coming back. Ryan was not allowed to attend gym class. They made him use plastic eating utensils. He had to use a separate restroom, and so on and so forth. It was very difficult for Ryan when he came back here. And there was one point where he had called Jeannie, his mom, and said that somebody had vandalized his locker and all of his learning materials. They wrote hateful, hurtful, and homophobic words on his learning materials. Somebody had gotten into his locker. And his mom, Jeannie, called the secretary and said, "I need to speak to the principal now." And she said, "I'm sorry he's not in, but he'll get back with you." And Jeannie said, "Ma'am, I've never called a press conference before, but I'm about to do it now if my son does not get a new locker and new materials to learn." Well, later that day, Ryan had called his mom back and said, "Everything's good, Mom. I got a new locker and I got new materials." But it didn't stop there. It continued to go. And actually, right here is the door that Ryan would have entered and exited from when he went to school. This is now the administration building, but back then it was the intermediate school. There's actually a picture, which I'll put here in the corner, of him walking out of these doors on his first day back, that have the media taking photos and interviews and things like that. Our next stop is Ryan's home in Kokomo. This was the home where he lived when he was diagnosed with AIDS, and the home where he lived when he became very ill. This was also the home where he was treated poorly by the community This is the area where he tried to go back to school and met resistance from parents and administrators. There was actually a group of parents who hosted an auction at the middle school gym, and they raised $12,000 to keep Ryan out of school. So he was fighting an uphill battle at this time. It was also around this time when the media started to catch on. Newspaper articles were being written, news stories were being ran, and it started to get picked up at a national level. And that was the first time that most of us heard about Ryan White. There's actually a picture of him on his bike, which I just posted there. Ryan had a paper route in this neighborhood. So that was kind of his outlet to go do his paper route. But it was in this house where Ryan told his mom, Jeannie, I don't want to die in Kokomo. When I die, I want it to be in a happier place. So at this point, Jeannie decided it was time to go. She said they needed a break from Kokomo as much as Kokomo needed a break from them. They actually had a bullet come through their window one night while they were out, and it would have came through that window right there. Okay, and now we are at the home in Cicero, Indiana, the home that the Whites moved to from Kokomo. This was going to be their fresh start home and area. This is also, unfortunately, the home that Ryan lived in when he fell ill again and eventually passed from his disease. On that day that he passed away, Michael Jackson and Donald Trump showed up to comfort Jeannie and Andrea. There's a video clip of that, which I'll put here. There's also a clip of Ryan's red Mustang on the front lawn with tons of flowers and well wishes around it. That Mustang was a gift from Michael Jackson, and you can see in the video here, he actually went out with Jeannie and Andrea to take a look at it. When they first moved in on the first day here at this home in Cicero, there was 5 kids that came down to introduce themselves to Ryan and to befriend him right off the bat. And 3 moms also came down, talked to Jeannie, and told her, if you need anything, we are here for you. Reach out anytime. And it would be pretty close to after they moved in here that Ryan would start his freshman year at Hamilton Heights High School, which, unbeknownst to the whites, the school had done education and they were ready for Ryan, and they were ready to welcome him with open arms. Peace out, Cicero. So I'm shooting things a little out of order today, just due to where everything is. We are currently at our last location, the last location that we are visiting today. However, it's not the end of the story. But we are slowly running out of daylight, and I wanted to get here and just talk real quick and take a couple pictures and head on back to start the editing process. So right now, we are at Hamilton Heights High School. Well, what used to be Hamilton Heights. A new school is being built down the road, a much bigger school. But this is where Ryan went to high school his freshman year after they moved up here. This is where he was greeted, welcomed with open arms. All these kids came out here on his first day, gave him hugs, shook his hand. They said, "Welcome, Ryan." And while Ryan's family was moving into their house on Cicero, or in Cicero rather, they didn't know, but the student body president of the school here told the principal, let's make Ryan feel welcome here. And they did just that. So this was Ryan's happy place. He had friends here. He got a job while going to this school. He had his car from Michael Jackson, of course, his Mustang. And Ryan had a great experience here. He was happy. He was really happy. Years down the road, they also added something else in memory of Ryan. His plaque. Kokomo native Ryan White was diagnosed with AIDS in 1984 after contracting the virus from a contaminated hemophilia treatment. He faced intense discrimination from his community at a time of fear and misunderstanding about AIDS, and was prevented from attending school in his hometown. Hamilton Heights High School welcomed Ryan White in 1997 after him and his family moved to Cicero. What a great plaque. And Ryan would have walked in and out of those doors right there at Hamilton Heights High School every day. Principal Tony Cook made sure Ryan felt welcome and made sure kids were educated, and Ryan loved it here. Now let's go take a look at his final resting place.
The statistics show that on AIDS, show that before blood screening procedures were adopted, more than 10,000 hemophiliacs contracted the deadly virus. 1,200 developed symptoms. 18-year-old Ryan White was one of them. Ryan died today in an Indiana hospital, but not before showing the world that he and other AIDS patients are much more than just statistics.
Here we are. Riley Children's Hospital. This is where Ryan was diagnosed with AIDS and where he passed away. Rest in peace, Ryan White. On March 29th of 1990, Ryan entered Riley Children's Hospital in Indianapolis with a respiratory tract infection. His condition quickly deteriorated, and he was actually sedated or placed in a coma and was on a ventilator. All throughout this time, Elton John was right by Jeannie's side at the hospital. And unfortunately, Ryan passed on April 8th, 1990. His funeral service was standing room only. I think there was approximately 1,500 people who attended, and it was held at the Second Presbyterian Church on Meridian Street in Indianapolis. Elton John didn't leave a dry eye in the house when he sang Skyline Pigeon in memory of Ryan. And Ryan did appear on the Phil Donahue show several times. And Phil Donahue, along with Howie Long and Elton John, actually served as Ryan's pallbearers at his funeral. Of course, Michael Jackson was there. First Lady Barbara Bush. It was really a spectacle, and everybody came and paid their respects and wanted to remember Ryan. Through Ryan's death, several very good things happened. I know there was a dance marathon created at the Indiana University, which raises money for AIDS research. And of course, the Ryan White Care Act was started also in Ryan's name.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch, and it was me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I once was blind, but now I see.
All right, so we made it to the Cicero Cemetary to find the grave of Ryan White. Throughout the course of this video, I haven't been able to talk a whole lot because we've been dodging high winds and a little bit of rain. We're losing daylight. So just to recap, his stay in Cicero, once Ryan decided he didn't want to die in Kokomo, Jeannie decided to start looking for other places for him and her and Andrea, his sister, to move to. She found a beautiful home here in Cicero. Very nice area, very nice home. And Elton John actually helped her with the down payment for the house. Elton John and Michael Jackson were very instrumental in caring for Ryan and Jeannie during their battle and even long after. Once Ryan got here to Cicero, his health started to improve a little bit. He went to a school where they loved him. And this may or may not be a family member of Ryan. I know his mother's maiden name is Hale. I'm not sure if that's them or not. I'll have to do some research on that. But Ryan loved Cicero. He loved his new high school. Michael Jackson bought him a 1988 Ford Mustang that he absolutely loved. He had to sit on a pillow to drive it because he was so short. But Ryan did normal kid things here in Cicero. He went to dances. He got a job at a skateboard shop. He was living like a normal kid until AIDS got the better of him. In late March of 1990, he was admitted to Riley Children's Hospital. He was put into a coma where he passed away on April 8th, 1990. And here he is, Ryan White, kid of courage. Looks like a lot of people have been out here leaving things for him. Ryan loved cars. He loved the Matchbox cars more so than the Hot Wheels because, according to Jeannie, he liked them more because he could open the doors and the hoods on the Matchbox cars, and the Hot Wheels he could not. Somebody left a beautiful grave blanket here. Nice wreath. And of course, the Whites were, and still are, a religious family. Of course, we all know this quote. Michael Jackson, got to make a difference, got to make it right. Friends forever, Michael Jackson. And of course, Elton John, who was just amazing to the Whites. Turn me loose from your hands. Let me fly to distant lands. Fly away sky. Line pigeon fly. From all the things you left so very far behind. Love, Elton John. Elton John and Michael Jackson were great friends of Ryan. Elton John actually entered rehab after Ryan's passing and got clean. So not only did Ryan help so many in the AIDS community, he also helped Elton John in that aspect. And he didn't even know it, unfortunately. Ryan White. I'm convinced he suffered no pain at the end, said Dr. Martin Kleeman, who was the doctor who diagnosed him with AIDS after a lung biopsy. Another Elton John scripture here. Your candle burned out long before your legend ever did. I thought that looked weird. Your candle burned out long before your legend ever did. He was a young man who taught us the meaning of courage, and I'm convinced that his life will be remembered more for what he taught us about living than the disease that affected him. Governor Evan Bay. And this monument was donated by Matt Frewer. In a place where no one is afraid to hug. No one wanted to hug Ryan when he was diagnosed because they were afraid. A couple other scriptures here. One from Reverend Bud Probasco. The children began to ask Ryan, "Are you afraid to die?" And Ryan responded, "If I die, I know I'm going to be in a better place." Ryan White fell asleep and woke up in his heavenly home on Palm Sunday, April 8th of 1990. What a beautiful memorial. I'm so glad I finally got the chance to come out here to visit Ryan, pay my respects. It's even got a flagpole here. So yeah, there he is. Ryan White, National AIDS Spokesman, and so much more. You are forever missed, Ryan. Rest in peace.
I've walked through shadows, found the coldest nights, bruised by the battles, yet I rise to fight. With every scar I learned to love the fall. In my reflection I see beauty after all. I'm not afraid of the cracks in my soul. They've paved the way to make me whole. But wear my flaws like a crown shining bright. I'm stronger every time I lose the fight. I'm a warrior of imperfections, a heart that's learned from all rejections. Through the pain I found my way. I'll stand tall, come what may. I'm a warrior of broken dreams, but in the pieces there's still a gleam. I'm not perfect, but I'm free. A warrior of imperfections, that's me. I've cried rivers, lost in the storm, but every tear has kept me warm. With every loss I find a new light. Each step forward I hold on tight. I'm not afraid of the cracks in my soul. They've paved the way to make me whole. I wear my flaws like a crown shining bright. I'm stronger every time I lose the fight. I'm a warrior of imperfections, a heart that's learned from all rejections. Through the pain I found my way. I'll stand tall, come what may. I'm a warrior of broken dreams, but in the pieces there's still a gleam. I'm not perfect, but I'm free. A warrior of imperfections, that's me. In every weakness I found my grace. In every fall I've embraced my place. And now I soar with wings unseen. A warrior born